Hello again, everyone. You're joining us for another episode of Executive Platform's Blueprint podcast series. My name is Jeff Mix. I'm head of content and research. My guest today is DeShawn Jordan of Applied Materials. We're going to be having a conversation about some of the industry challenges that biopharmaceutical manufacturing executives are facing. DeShawn, thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Jeff.
If there's a top-of-mind issue that you're hearing a lot right now, what is sort of front and center in your mind when we talk about the challenges the industry is facing?
Well, one of the things is the development and manufacturing of advanced therapies. That is something that I'm hearing quite a bit. So, cell and gene, the demand on cell and gene development and manufacturing, and bringing real-time analytics to that area is one of the biggest things that we're seeing, and being able to predict, have some predictability, and being able to unsilo a lot of the data hubs that are out there. So we're seeing a lot of that right now.
I wonder if we can talk a little bit about some of the things that are slowing down the ability to bring new products to market.
Yeah, one of the things that we're seeing out there in the market is this whole concept of siloed data. There's data hubs that each department is managing, and really that is causing some challenges from say a capacity perspective. And so that's something that we've seen, and how can we help companies unsilo that data so it can be something that's used, and we can get that data out to the right individuals and the right departments, so that data can be used in real time and actually be used for something that can be of the right purpose.
And I imagine in the cell and gene space especially, this is really something that we want to get our hands around early, because they're in the process of inventing all of this. So having the visibility of the data, making the right decisions, and then setting it up right from the start so that it'll continue to grow organically is going to help with the capacity challenge?
So unsiloing data, as I mentioned, is essential to the process. But doing so allows the ability to be predictable, also brings all the data in from a visualization perspective, and allows that end-to-end connectivity that you can see the entire process. And so that's something that we have really focused on working with companies on doing, because we see that's one of the biggest needs that are out there in industry.
And I know Applied Materials started off in the semiconductor space, so it's really interesting to come from a different manufacturing space that has had time to refine some of these things and bring it to a new emerging industry.
Yeah, and you touched on the semiconductor, right? And we have been around for 30 to 40 years, really reinventing the different strategies and algorithms in that space. And so bringing that learning from the semiconductor space over into the pharma, pharma, and now the cell and gene space is one of the differentiators for us. Right?
Well, and it speaks to, that is a space full of innovation. Think how much semiconductors reinvent themselves over the years. Mm-hmm. Biopharma is in that same sort of accelerated pace, but you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You have a process that works in one kind of manufacturing. Yes. Let's move it over. And of course, if we're talking about bringing in data collection and data analytics into a well-regulated space like biopharmaceuticals, maybe we should talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and going back to a little bit on the semiconductor, right? Semiconductor space is a regulated industry as well, right? And so, that is a industry that the pharma and biopharma can learn from, and look and see, how did that industry overcome some of the regulations in order to bring this, the advanced modeling, the automation into play, and be able to really focus on how to be more efficient, more predictable, and be able to get to that stage of having lights out manufacturing that is shown in the semi space. So yeah, it's on a very similar trajectory that the semi sector went on years ago.
And it's a really exciting time. So why don't we talk about de-siloing, sharing a common pool of data and moving forward with it. When you're working with your partners in the space, what is some of the advice you have for them, especially cell and gene companies that are relatively young? They were just excited to move into commercialization, but they want to get things right from the get-go. What input are you bringing to them?
So why don't we talk about the complexity of the product first? Cell and gene and just biomanufacturing in general has the complexity is a lot. So you have different products, right? Different manufacturers that are not making all the products the same way. That's the first thing that we try to work with our customers on. And sometimes, or most of the time, that usually results in, as I mentioned, the data siloing and having these different data hubs integrate. The other part is the modeling, is bringing that advanced modeling to fruition, and then the automation layer, right, of bringing the machine learning and AI to those facilities or to those companies really can help with some of that product complexity. And then another one could be resource allocation, right? So, one of the challenges for those sites is where do we use our resources and when do we use them, and what training do those folks have as well? And so, we're able to tie into the resource planning system or the training system for those organizations, and be able to use that data in order to help build, say, a schedule, build a process from an analytics perspective, and really help to drive the decisions that need to be made in real time.
So I want to expand upon scheduling, and I think what we're really hoping for here is being able to respond in real time, building agility and flexibility into an organization that is young, that, hey, we built this facility to build the product one way, but every way is a little different. Yeah. We're all still figuring it out, but as information comes in, it's not enough to collect it. We need to act on it. And some of that is going to be a tool that puts it together into what are we doing today? Can we talk about that?
Yeah. So, you mentioned scheduling, right? And I think scheduling is everywhere. It's in everything that we do, and it's in every decision that we make, right? So a decision that is made on the shop floor in a process area can impact your schedule. Decision that's made in the planning stage with the planners or the schedulers can impact your ultimate schedule. So having a schedule that's able to be adaptable to any of the changing needs. So if you have a piece of equipment that goes down, for instance, your schedule being adaptive enough to make those adjustments in real time, so you don't lose any time from a product, getting a product out the door, for instance, or your resources, right? Utilizing your resources is efficiently, because sometimes when, let's say, equipment goes down, your resources sometimes are just sitting. So if that's happening, how do you move those people around efficiently? How do you utilize those folks so you can make up time, right? So that's one of them.
Yeah, and I think that speaks beautifully to your point of getting all of the data into one place means when something happens in one place, everybody is aware how it impacts them, and it impacts the schedule. And I guess where we're sort of evolving this conversation into is the factory itself is smarter for having this tool available to everyone, and everyone can access it for whatever their own purpose may be. And I think that's probably what Applied Materials is actually doing.
Correct. Yeah, and that's our ultimate goal, right, for businesses and our partners is to have access to all of the data, not just some of the data, and all the data, so they can make informed decisions and provide the right data to the right people at the right time. And so we're really looking for that efficient process and how to help those organizations realize that.
Maybe we can go back to scheduling just one more time, because I think that's sort of the heart of what we're really hoping to talk about here. What is Applied Materials solution in the scheduling space called?
Yeah, so overall, our overall platform is called Smart Factory RX. And within the overall platform, there are different modules. There's modules, there's a smart process development module, there's a smart process analytics, there's a smart maintenance module, and then smart scheduling, as you asked the question, right? So there's those 4 modules that we have, and within them, they all can work together, but they also are modular and they can work separate.
Sometimes when we're talking about a software tool, I like to put myself in the position of the person who has to use it. So I'm a biopharmaceutical executive. I have a facility that I'm running. How has my day-to-day changed once I've got this tool operating in my facilities?
Yeah, so typically, before the tool, organizations from a scheduling perspective are using systems such as ERPs systems, they're using Excel files, and then simplistic algorithms that they're using from a scheduling perspective. So a lot of that is not bringing in data from all of the different data hubs that are usually utilized in a business. And it requires somebody to methodically have to manage those schedules as well. And so when that happens, that takes time. And by the time the schedule is already updated, something else already happened and the schedule's already changed. So it's a continuous process, right? So before utilizing our smart scheduling module, that's typically what is going on in the factories. And with our smart scheduling module, that can change, right? So then you can start freeing people's time that was generally taking to manage the schedule to actually just reacting to the schedule changes. So as those schedule changes or those changes in the schedule are being done in real time through all the different data that's coming in to the centralized location of Smart Factory RX, then that is allowing that freedom of the executive, right? So they're just reacting to the outputs that are coming out of Smart Factory versus always having to put inputs into it and then react off of that.
Now, I do think it's worth saying, no one is starting from a blank slate of paper here. There were existing processes in place. There were existing tools that they were using. Does everything have to run through the smart scheduling solution?
Actually, the short answer is no.
Okay.
It does not. And the great thing about our solution as a whole, right, and not just smart scheduling, but as a whole, is that it does very well with third-party integration. So it allows that. And if most facilities have an ERP system, right, already, or they have a SAP system or scheduling system that they've already been using, we can easily take that and integrate that into Smart Factory RX and just automize the solution for them a little bit more. So it's a little bit easier, and they're using machine learning and AI algorithms versus the manual processes that they were doing earlier.
Now, I appreciate every facility is going to be different, every company is going to be a little different. But broadly speaking, what is a reasonable timeline to roll something like this out?
Yeah, it depends on the organization, right? It really depends on their data maturity. It depends on their level of change management. So it depends. Really, it's those 2 items are the biggest items that help determine the timeline. So I could easily say it's going to take 6 months, but it's really issue or company dependent.
I think what I'm hearing is that you're sort of flexible to what their needs are, and that sort of speaks to my next question, which is, what does the working relationship with Applied Materials look like? This isn't a turnkey, they've bought a software, they install it, they run it themselves. You have an ongoing relationship with these people.
Yeah, and we actually pride ourselves on that, right, is building a partnership. We want to be a partner. We're not just a solution provider, and you purchase a solution and then you're off on your own. We actually want to be a partner with you. You purchase the software, we want to work with you on integrating it within your cadences, And we can also provide some help from a change management perspective if that's needed. But yeah, really, we want to be a partner, long-term partner, not just a solution provider.
I know we've covered a lot of ground in this conversation. If there are a couple of key takeaways you want people to think about a little further, what would those be?
I think number one is around data. The siloing of data. I think that is one of the biggest challenges that we have in our industry, is all these different hubs of data. So bringing that data together and using that data efficiently to make the best possible decisions. That's one. Another one is that looking at our advanced modeling, using our advanced modeling techniques, machine learning, AI. There's a lot that's out there today, and being open to utilizing that. And I know that we're in a highly regulated industry, but being open to look at other industries that are also regulated and see how they incorporated those items into their processes, into their plants, and into the procedures, and work with the regulators to get them done.
Now, I know some people are going to have questions or want to learn more, and I know your company does have the website appliedsmartfactory.com/pharmaceuticals.
Yes.
Is there some other way that they should be getting in touch?
Yeah, you can get in touch with me directly through LinkedIn or at my email address, DeShawn_Jordan@amat.com. Also, you can look at the Smart Factory RX LinkedIn page as well. Those are ideal ways to get in contact with us.
Okay. Well, I always think it's so generous when people make their own contact information available.
Yes.
I know I've enjoyed speaking with you, so everyone who's been listening to this, if you have some questions for DeShawn, it's been great, and I encourage you to reach out. DeShawn, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
You've been listening to another episode of Executive Platform's Blueprint podcast series. I've been Jeff Mix. Let's do it again soon.